The sound of leather soles echoed against the marble floor. Inside the towering glass lobby of Virian Capital, eyes turned as Daniel Hayes, a single dad in oil-stained overalls and torn boots, stood beside his daughter. Her backpack was taped together. His coat was too thin for winter. They didn't belong here, and everyone knew it. A man in a $5,000 suit, flanked by assistants, smirked as he passed. CEO Bradley Vance didn't bother to lower his voice. Looks like maintenance brought their kid to work. Tell me, do your shoes come with a food stamp discount? Laughter erupted. Daniel didn't flinch. He knelt down to tighten his daughter's shoelaces, kissed her forehead, and looked up at the towering man. I may not own a corner office, he said softly, but I built the floor you walk on. The room quieted, but only for a second. Security moved in. The CEO turned away, but what none of them knew was that this single dad had once designed the very system Virian built its empire on. And he hadn't come here to beg. He came to reclaim what was stolen. Rain ticked against the high glass ceiling of the Virian Capital lobby, like fingers drumming impatiently on fate. Inside, all marble and mirrored chrome, suited executives glided past without breaking stride. A receptionist typed, without looking up. The world here moved fast, polished, cold, untouchable. But then, the doors opened. And Daniel Hayes walked in. His boots were cracked and uneven. One had a strip of duct tape wrapped around the toe. His jacket was 2 sizes too big. In his left hand, a small girl in a yellow raincoat clutching a soaked folder labeled Science Fair. The receptionist paused. 2 security guards exchanged a look. Daniel didn't stop walking. He scanned the directory on the wall, water dripping from his sleeves. He looked out of place, not just in clothing, but in rhythm. He didn't belong here. Not anymore. Excuse me, sir, the receptionist began, standing. Before she could finish, a voice cut through the lobby like a whip. Maintenance isn't supposed to bring their kids inside. Everyone turned. Bradley Vance, CEO of Virian Capital, stood near the elevator bank, hair slicked, cufflinks gleaming. 2 assistants flanked him like armor. He smirked at Daniel's boots. Tell me, do those come with a free sandwich? Laughter. Polite. Cruel. Daniel said nothing. He knelt beside his daughter, fixed her wet hair behind her ear, and whispered something that made her smile. Then he stood face calm, eyes locked on Bradley. I may not own a corner office, Daniel said quietly, but I built the floor you walk on. The lobby went still, and in that moment, no one knew that Daniel Hayes wasn't here to beg. He was here to reclaim something that had been stolen. There was a time when Daniel Hayes didn't wear duct-taped boots. Back then, he wore crisp button-downs, navy ties, and carried blueprints. Instead of lunchboxes, he used to take the train downtown with earbuds in, scribbling ideas on napkins, solving code problems before sunrise. In conference rooms, he was the quiet one until he spoke. Then even the loudest execs leaned in. Daniel was the architect behind the Centra Grid prototype, a smart logistics platform that predicted urban traffic for shipping companies. His code cut delivery costs by 40%. His design won regional awards. And yet, they never put his name on the patent. It wasn't that he didn't notice. He did. But back then, Daniel believed in building, not fighting. He believed that if he just kept doing good work, someone would eventually say, that guy deserves more. Instead, they took his design, put another executive's name on it, and told him, you're a team player, Dan. This is bigger than one person. He told Lena about it over dinner one night, brushing mashed potatoes onto Ella's toddler plate. Should have said something, she whispered. Daniel just smiled, kissed her hand, and said, next time. But there was no next time. A year later, Lena got sick. Everything paused. Work, code, life. Daniel cashed in his PTO to take care of her. He didn't answer emails. He missed a pitch meeting he didn't even know was happening. and when she died. So did his seat at the table. The next time he logged in, his access was gone. His badge didn't scan. His inbox was deleted. His name was forgotten. But his work wasn't. And that's what brought him back to the building he once helped build. Daniel didn't grow up in a world of boardrooms. He grew up on the east side of Detroit, where the factories breathed like dying animals and the sky always smelled like iron and rain. His father, Louis Hayes, worked at the same GM plant for 33 years. Grease under his nails, calluses thick as coins. He came home every night at 7:10 p.m. like clockwork. Not once did he complain. His mother, Marcia, was a public school teacher who stretched pencils and patience further than anyone had a right to. She packed lunches even when they didn't have much. She once said, "Dignity ain't about how much you earn. It's about how you treat the cashier." Daniel learned early how to fix broken things, bikes, microwaves, hearts, on weekends. While other kids played video games, he helped his father rebuild an old truck out back. He watched how Luis never cursed at a stripped bolt, never rushed. A job. Things fall apart when you force them, he'd say. Daniel carried that lesson into everything. Relationships, code, life. By 16. He was taking apart computers from thrift stores and rebuilding them better. By 18. He had a scholarship. He didn't leave home because he hated it. He left because he wanted to prove that rusted hands could still build gold. But even as he rose through tech, he never forgot where he came from. He still reused coffee filters, still said sir to janitors, still held elevator doors for strangers. And that humility, that quiet strength, it made people underestimate him, especially men like Bradley Vance, who saw dirt as weakness. They never understood. Some roots grow deeper in concrete than in glass. The first time Daniel saw Lena, she was standing on a folding chair, hanging, free. Legal aid for tenants flyers on a community center wall. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun. Her voice? Too loud for such a small room. She talked like justice was a job description. Like hope wasn't naive, it was necessary. Daniel had just come to fix the center's busted Wi-Fi. He wasn't expecting to fall in love. But when she offered him a paper plate of half-warm lasagna and asked what he really wanted to do with his life, something shifted. They talked for 5 hours. She was chaos. He was calm. She wore protest buttons. He built the apps that tracked them. She quoted Toni Morrison. He quoted lines of code. They moved in together 6 months later. They didn't have money for a wedding, so they married at City Hall with $10 rings and a borrowed bouquet. Lena laughed the whole time. When their daughter, Ella, was born 2 years later, Daniel held her like she was made of breath and stars. Lena whispered, "You're going to be her home." And he was. They lived in a one-bedroom apartment above a laundromat. The floor creaked. The windows hissed in winter. But it didn't matter. They had burnt toast breakfasts and bedtime stories written on napkins. They had plans and calendars and whispered dreams in the dark. Daniel would stay up late, tweaking code with Ella asleep on his chest. Lena would fall asleep with legal briefs on her lap. They didn't have much, but they had each other. And for a while, that was enough. Until the sickness came and tore everything apart. It started with a cough, just a dry little thing, barely noticeable, that Lena brushed off as allergies. Then came the fatigue, the weight loss, the bruises that stayed too long. Daniel wasn't worried at first. She always pushed herself too hard. But when she collapsed while picking up Ella from daycare, they rushed to the A. The fluorescent lights of the hospital flickered like ghosts above them. The doctor came in with a clipboard and a rehearsed frown. Acute myeloid leukemia. Advanced stage. Daniel didn't understand the words at first. It felt like a different language, one spoken only in rooms where life changed in minutes. Lena was quiet. She just stared ahead. Ella, only 4, sat in the corner drawing a crooked heart in her notebook. Treatment began immediately. Daniel put his career on pause. He used all his sick days, then vacation days, then unpaid leave. He drove Lena to chemo, held her hand through the nausea, whispered stories to Ella at night when she asked why mommy looked different. Their home became a war zone of pill bottles and soft blankets. Daniel tried to keep things normal, made pancakes, paid bills, fixed the leaky faucet Lena used to yell about, but he was breaking, quietly, relentlessly. One night Lena asked him, "Are you mad at me?" He shook his head, tears falling into the folds of her hospital gown. "I'm mad at God," he whispered. "I'm mad at time." She smiled through the pain. "Don't be, just love her hard, every day. Promise me that." He kissed her forehead. "I promise." A month later, she was gone, just like that. And Daniel Hayes was no longer a husband, just a father trying not to fall apart. The day Daniel walked back into the office, everything felt wrong. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, but the air was colder than he remembered. He clutched Ella's hand tightly, hoping for a fresh start. His old ID badge barely scanned at the security gate. The receptionist's smile was polite, but distant. "Daniel, your position was filled last month," she said softly, eyes flicking to the screen. He blinked, disbelief washing over him. "Filled? By who?" His voice cracked. She shrugged. "I don't know. HR handles that now." Daniel felt the weight of every lost email, every ignored call, every unanswered message. He was a ghost in the place he built. Weeks passed. He watched his designs get credited to others. The system he created became a profit machine for Varian without him. The company didn't deny it, they just refused to help. When Daniel asked for meetings, he was brushed off. When he tried legal advice, he found walls too expensive, too complicated. Each rejection felt like a punch in the gut. At night, Ella would ask, "Daddy, why don't you go back to work?" He would smile, swallow the bitterness, and say, "Because sometimes you have to fight the right fight." But inside, the fight was just beginning. Daniel sat at the kitchen table, a stack of legal papers scattered before him like cold rain. Fluorescent glare from the cheap lamp made the words blur. Varian Capital didn't just steal his code. They'd taken his future. His prototype, the Centra Grid, was now theirs, patented under a name he'd never heard. Emails he sent to HR bounced back unopened. Calls went unanswered. Corporate policies, they said. Non-disclosure agreements. A system built on algorithms but no conscience. He reached out to a lawyer once. She sighed, eyes tired. "The company has money. You have grit. Guess who wins?" Ella tugged his sleeve. "Daddy, can we play?" He forced a smile. "Soon, sweetheart." But inside, Daniel's world crumbled. How do you fight a machine that's designed to silence you? And yet, every morning, he laced up those worn boots, kissed Ella, and reminded himself, the system may forget him, but he never forgot the system. With hope still flickering, Daniel tried. He sent emails to journalists. He posted online. He told his story in coffee shops, community centers, anywhere that would listen. But the tech world was unforgiving. "You're a janitor now," one sneered at a networking event. "Stick to what you know." He applied for jobs: repair tech, security, even teaching coding after school. Rejections piled like unopened letters. His bank account shrank. Rent was due. Ella watched him worry. "Daddy, are we going to be okay?" Daniel hugged her tight. "We will be." But the nights were the hardest. Alone, he scrolled through old emails, searching for any sign of support. There was none. One night, after a long shift cleaning floors at a garage, Daniel stared at his reflection in a cracked mirror. "Who are you now?" he whispered. A voice in his head answered, "The man who never quits." One rainy evening, the unexpected happened. Daniel's phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "Meet me at the Rusty Nail. Come alone." Curious, cautious, he went in. The dim light of the bar, a nervous man approached. "Name's Mark," he whispered. Used to work at Varian. I've got something you need to see. Mark pulled out a folder thick with documents, internal emails, design specs, timestamps. Proof that Daniel's Centra grid was stolen. I was part of it, Mark confessed. But I couldn't stay silent. Daniel's hands trembled. The truth, buried under layers of corporate lies, was now in his grasp. Hope surged. But danger lurked. Because once secrets like these leak, there's no going back. Daniel's chance came sooner than expected. He attended a tech job fair with Ella, hoping to network, but instead, he faced the full weight of Bradley Vance's cruelty. Standing beside a giant Varian booth, Daniel was spotted. Bradley's voice cut through the chatter. Loud and sharp. Is that the janitor? Or did you just forget your shoes at the donation bin? Laughter rippled across the crowd. Ella clung to Daniel's hand, eyes wide. Daniel's face remained calm, but inside, rage boiled. Someone pulled out a phone. The moment was recorded. It spread like wildfire. His worn boots became a symbol, not of shame, but of something else. A man mocked for what he had lost. A father fighting to be heard, and the world was watching. The video popped up in Daniel's feed at 2 a.m. His face unflinching, while Bradley's cruel words echoed in the background. He watched himself kneeling beside Ella, steady, proud. Comments flooded in, some cruel, many curious. A growing chorus asking, "Who is this man?" Local news picked up the story. A few bloggers dug deeper. The underdog was no longer invisible. Daniel wasn't just a janitor. He was a symbol. At school, Ella's classmates stared, whispering, but she held her head high. "Daddy's a hero," she said. Daniel smiled, but inside, the weight of the spotlight was heavy. He knew this attention was a double-edged sword. One wrong move, and it could all disappear. But for the first time in months, hope felt real. A message popped into Daniel's inbox from an anonymous sender. "Check the folder I dropped at your place." Heart pounding, Daniel opened it. Inside, internal memos, design drafts, emails with timestamps, all proving his authorship. It was from Mark, the former Varian engineer. He'd risked everything to help. Daniel's fingers trembled as he read. Realized he wasn't alone. There were others who remembered. Others who wanted justice. Together, maybe they could take Varian down. Ella had a school assignment. Write a letter to someone you admire. She chose her dad. Her words, simple and pure, described a man who never gave up. Daniel found the letter on the kitchen table. It was filled with crayon hearts and shaky handwriting. "My daddy is brave. They laughed at his shoes, but he helps me be strong." Daniel felt tears sting. He scanned the letter and posted a photo. Online. It went viral. People connected with the story. A dad fighting not just for himself, but for his daughter's future. Despite the momentum, Daniel's world darkened. Legal doors slammed. Money drained. Sleep vanished. One night alone in their small apartment, Daniel collapsed. The weight of grief, exhaustion, and injustice crashed down. Ella woke and found him on the floor, tears streaking down his face. She crawled into his lap. "You're not alone, Daddy," she whispered. And in that fragile moment, Daniel found the spark to fight harder. The morning Daniel stepped into Varian Capital's lobby, the cold marble walls seemed to close in around him like a cage. Security cameras blinked from every corner, silent witnesses to his every move. His boots echoed hollowly against the polished floor, a rhythm unlike the hurried footsteps around him. This wasn't a visit to beg for mercy or a job. No. Daniel was here to face the beast. His heart hammered, not from fear, but from years of bottled rage and quiet resolve. Bradley Vance's office loomed ahead, top floor, panoramic glass windows overlooking the city that had forgotten him. He bypassed the receptionist with a nod and made his way to the elevator. Each floor ticked by like a countdown to reckoning. When the doors opened, Bradley was waiting, cool and untouchable in his tailored suit. "Daniel Hayes," he said, voice silky with disdain. What an unexpected surprise. Daniel met his gaze, unflinching. "I'm not here to negotiate," he said. "I'm here to show you what you stole." He pulled out the folder from Mark, the proof that could topple empires. Bradley smiled. Thinly, "We own everything, Daniel. You're just a footnote." But Daniel's voice was steady. "Not anymore." Daniel didn't wait for a courtroom judge to decide his fate. Instead, he opened the floodgates himself. He uploaded every piece of evidence, the emails, the code, Mark's whistleblower documents to the internet. The public courtroom had begun. Social media exploded overnight. Tech bloggers, whistleblowers, and former employees joined the chorus, sharing stories of Virian's shady practices. Hashtags trended. Hashtag justice for Daniel. Hashtag built not bought. News outlets interviewed Daniel, captivated by his quiet strength and relentless spirit. The man they once mocked for his worn shoes was now the voice of a movement. Bradley Vance and Virian Capital faced questions they couldn't dodge. The board demanded explanations. Stock prices wavered. The mighty empire trembled beneath the weight of truth. Daniel's phone buzzed endlessly, messages of support, interviews, even offers to speak at tech conferences. But through it all, Daniel's focus never wavered. This wasn't about fame. It was about justice. And about proving to Ella, no matter how hard the world pushes you down, you can rise. He never wanted fame, never needed revenge. All Daniel Hayes ever wanted was to raise his daughter with truth in his voice and pride in his step, even if the world mocked his worn-out boots. But sometimes, justice doesn't wear a robe. It wears a scar, a memory, a name they once tried to bury. And sometimes, the smallest voices written in crayon echo the loudest in rooms built on silence. Maybe that's what they all forgot. That the ones you step over on the way up might be the ones waiting at the top to remind you who really built the stairs.